how do you, as a creative boss, how do you spend your day? What is your day like? In a creative agency or in Spring Marketing Capital, what do you all exactly do when you come to office?
Yes. So that's a very very valid question, because a lot of even my parents still ask me that question of what do I do when I get into work, and so I, like I said, right, unlike what we believe, that we just sit around and there are these ideas that strike us. There is actually a lot of rigor. There is a lot of hard work that goes into it, because what you do is that you try. It's a little bit like what I say. It's like peeling the onion. So it's layer by layer you keep peeling, and then you try and understand what it is that the brand really requires. So for example, if you take a brand when the brand doesn't have a face at all, right? So let me take the example of Baiju, for instance. So when we started work with Baiju, there was Baiju as a product existed, but it didn't exist as a brand for the world. It's only people who knew the product were consuming the product, but it didn't exist as a word. So when I go into work, what we do is we first sit down and say, okay, here is a completely radical way of studying, right? Which is online education, which today seems very normal to us because of the whole COVID situation. But this I'm talking about June 2015, when it wasn't the case. And what happens is when we sit down to work, what we do is we try and understand what is the core of this offering. And when we realized, and when what we understood is that the core of the offering was to help kids fall in love with learning. This is the articulation we came up with, saying, come fall in love with learning, and that still continues till date. That's the purpose with which brand Baiju exists. So everything around the brand is built around the purpose of come fall in love with learning. It's the only purpose for the brand is to fall in love with learning. So we first we go through all the material, all the research. There is a lot of research work that happens. We go through all of that, and then we arrive at what we call the core proposition for the brand. And this is what we arrive at in a day, not in a day, over a period of time. And this is something that we think about. Then what we do is then we actually think about how does this now come to life? What are the faculties? For example, in the case of Baiju, there are two faculties, right? There is the student and then there is the parent. How do we? Because finally the student consumes the product, the parent pays for the product. So you have to make sure that you put it out in a way that it seems appealing to both of them, and they both see merit in it. So then you start thinking about, okay, how can you bring alive this world in a creative way? Then you start thinking of what are the assets that you can build around it. So what is the language that the brand will speak? For instance, I'll just give you an example again, since I spoke about Baiju. A decision we made was we will never talk about marks and how well a student will do in exams. It was a decision, because when you're making somebody fall in love with learning, you're not thinking about the outcome of good performance in exams. You're only talking about how can I make you fall in love with learning, that you enjoy learning, that you want to learn here. That is the kind of decisions. These are some of the decisions you make. And these decisions are made on a daily basis, Samir. So there are decisions like that. Then there are decisions like at a later stage saying, how do you scale up further? Do you need to bring in a brand ambassador? That's when the whole conversation about Shah Rukh Khan happens. So then we said, okay, if Shah Rukh Khan comes in, and today Baiju, there is a bunch of endorsements, right? So there is Shah Rukh Khan for the rest of the country. There is Mohanlal in Kerala. There is Mahesh Babu in Andhra Pradesh. There is Sudeep in Karnataka. So then you start working the worlds, because every part of India is a different world, right? So how do you bring that alive? Then you start thinking about what is the television asset? How do you think of scripts? Then you have to get down to actually writing scripts. And, as easy as they think it is, the thing is that finally you have to package a whole bunch of information into 30 seconds and 40 seconds, right? It's a very challenging exercise, because you have to say so much, and you have to get attention of people, and you have to say it all in 30 seconds. How do you do that? How do you play between music and dialogues and shooting and all of that? Then once you script it down, then there is a process called storyboarding. So storyboard is actually frame by frame, what it is that you're going to shoot. Then you get into a shoot. Then you get into post-production. Then is when it finally goes on air. So this is what we do on a daily basis, where we think about brands and how can we bring alive a lot of this for brands, right?